As an actor, when you approach Shakespeare, you're always aware of trying to make language that is 400 years old, contemporary, accessible, relatable, and new minted, because it's possible. The wisdom in it is you know, human nature hasn't changed, and you're trying to open that up for audiences, saying, look, we're still the same. We still fall in love, we still fall out of love, we still fight with our fathers, we still create obstacles, we still suffer from what are construed as the 7 deadly sins. You know, Shakespeare knew that. And you're trying to open that up and present it so that the language doesn't seem archaic or remote. And essentially open up the echo of 400 years of human nature. And so as an actor, you're always aware of that. And then to actually hold the pages that are in fact 400 years old is a very unique thing, and one I find really exciting.
We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whiles any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day.
One of the great thrills for me about the Hollow Crown and social media is that I think people wanted to watch it because they'd seen me play Loki in Avengers, for example, and they were interested to see what I was doing. But they were gripped immediately by Shakespeare and the power of the stories and the characters. And I've been made aware of an account on Twitter called Hollow Crown Fans, which has a huge number of followers now. And they've started doing this thing called Shakespeare Sunday. There's a hashtag, it's called Shakespeare Sunday, and every Sunday, basically Sunday is a free-for-all for anyone to post their favorite quotes from Shakespeare. And it's become a kind of a long growing motif. And then I know it's the Hollow Crown Fans account that runs this thing. And I've seen people like Clark Gregg, who was in Joss Whedon's Much Ado About Nothing, and Samuel West, and people sort of, you know, chucking things in with their favorite Shakespeare quotes. So I feel like it's maybe indirectly, it's given birth to an appreciation and a passion for Shakespeare that maybe wasn't there before. So if it has, then that's my enormous privilege.
The Donmar produces 6 productions a year, and we try and keep the diet of work as varied as possible. So we will look at the 20th century repertoire of plays. We certainly have a very strong emphasis on the European repertoire. We like to do a musical, we like to do the classical repertoire, and this is the first Shakespeare certainly I've programmed in the 5 years I've been here, since 2002. And it was an important moment about deciding which was the right Shakespeare to do in this very intimate surrounding, and the very high domestic nature of Othello seems to lend itself beautifully to this environment.
If somebody would just say what name here, do you see this? If we just hear the name Cassio, if he would just say, I'd rather not talk about it, perhaps you and Cassio would like to talk about it. If we would have heard the name Cassio. But the key to Iago is to make sure that all people remain in their own chambers. You follow this, you've seen his ability. As long as no one talks with anyone else, you can be anything. I told you, kids.
What's interesting about playing Cassio is that you discover his insecurities as you play him. And he seems to be this young alpha male on the page, and he's got everything going for him. He hath a daily beauty in his life that makes Iago ugly. But when you get inside him, he has all these flaws, and he's fallible, and he's incomplete because he isn't yet where he wants to be in his life. He's clearly on a career trajectory, and he can't take his drink, and he loses his reputation, And it's in that reputation scene where you discover what of the most important things to himself in his life. It is his reputation. And Shakespeare's tapped into this amazing concept in humanity, I think, that as human beings, all we have is our reputation, and that's our legacy.
Well, we were talking about this scene with, we were almost through. We were talking about Rodrigo, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we never got Rodrigo.
Yeah, we haven't got to Act 3 yet at all.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just said you should be satisfied with it and everything.
Look here where he says, the jewels you have had from me to deliver Desdemona would have half corrupted the voters. And in that, we talked about that. What was revealed there? What do we know now? The jewels, we're all looking at this thing, what jewels are you talking about?
Rodrigo was paying Iago.
What Rodrigo was paying Iago, he was giving him jewels for the purpose of winning Desdemona. Now you know, where are the jewels? Hey, at the pawn shop, right? He's already taken those and cashed those in. So, he says, you told me she has received them and returned the expectations and comforts of sudden respect and acquaintance. When she got the jewels, what would she return then? Sudden respect and acquaintance, meaning what? She would like him. She's going to come back and tell him, I'm ready for you. But, he says, I haven't heard a peep. So, at the end, by the end of this, what has Iago surmised about Rodrigo that he hadn't thought before?
He's a little smarter.
A little smarter? Yes?
He still has some self-respect, I guess, like he'll stand up for himself to a degree.
Some level of self-respect? What else? Yeah.
And if he doesn't fix whatever Rodrigo's thinking, he's gonna go to Desdemona.
Okay, he said, I'm going to go to Desdemona and ask her for those jewels back, and I will repent my unlawful solicitation. Well, if you repent something, what do? You say you're sorry. So when he goes to her and says, look, I should never have come on to you by giving you those jewels, what's the response?
The jewels.
Well, the jewels Iago gave you. Iago never gave me any jewels. See, because remember, these people are honest people save one, and who is that? That's Iago. Remember that Rodrigo now is in deadly earnest, and we have not seen him in earnest, have we? Hitherto, he has been a dupe. He's been satisfied with the crumbs that Iago hands him, right? But now we see that he's not going away without an answer. And what did Iago suggest then? He could help him with what mission now?
Yeah, the murder of Cassio.
All right, let's murder Cassio. I want to dispatch Cassio.
I feel very much that Shakespeare wrote an ending for Iago's story, that the audience are left in no doubt that he's going to be taken away and tortured horribly and killed eventually. But whereas everyone on stage and everyone in the auditorium want an explanation, they want him to tell us, why did you do these terrible things? And Shakespeare's not allowed that. He's denied the audience and the characters an explanation from Iago, who simply says, from this moment forth I never will speak words. He says, I'm not going to say anything else ever. And I think it's brilliant, because there can be no rational explanation as to why somebody would do these things. And certainly if they're motivated by love, which I think they probably are, and a kind of smiting of his love that he feels for Othello, it's not something that Iago would like to share with a group.
Within this, what Shakespeare's constructed is this incredibly powerful longing and hatred and jealousy and fury and love, and everything is feeding into each other for this one night, which should be this incredibly passionate night, but actually has always been interrupted to the point where now it is violent and vengeful.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wander'st in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.